Okay, so did everyone add this text box as well? So this is the most important control, so you have to add this as well. So the name is txt edit, and the multi-line equals true. That allows you to have many lines. And we want a vertical scroll bar here, and the text property is set to nothing. Okay, does everyone get that? All right, now, next thing is he's going to add another property. Okay, again, you could ask me, why do we need to make this into a property? I'm going to call it a wrapper. And what is it wrapping? What is it covering? It's a wrapper. First of all, what's the name of the property? It's called edit text. Okay, and what is it wrapping? What is it covering? What is it covering? What does it return? What does it return? txt edit.text. What is txt again? I'm sorry, what is txt edit again? It's the text box. So this is .text means what? The text property. So that's what it returns. And what does it set? The same thing, right? So it's wrapping what? It's covering what? This txt edit.text. Okay, so again, you can ask me, why are we doing that? Okay, and the answer is, so far, is just practicing making properties. Okay, so not a really great reason, but there's some reason for it. Okay, so can everyone type this, please? Create this property. Edit text. Okay, let me ask you a question. When we click this first button here, up here, what we want to do is we want to clear the text. Okay? Everyone understand the function of that button? It's supposed to clear the text. Are you finished yet or not? All I want you to do is just type this part here. Don't type the other parts yet. I'll give you time for the other parts in a minute. Okay? So you should be finished with this. So when we click this button here, we want to clear the text. So how can we do that? How could we clear the text? So of course we want to put it in the button click handler, but what are we going to write in the button click handler? We want to clear the text. How can we do it? Can you think of your way of doing it? Yeah, I guess we could do this, couldn't we? I think this will work. We could write, what's the text box called? It's called txt, it's called this, right? No, sorry, it's called what? txt edit. So we could do .text, txt edit.text equals what? We could just put an empty string here, right? And that would clear it, right? So when we click that button, this would run, and that would set it to empty, right? Okay, so that's the easy way to do it. But that's not the way he wants to do it. So let's learn the way that he wants to do it. So first of all, again, what is one of the things that he's trying to teach us here in this class? Is to use functions a lot. Okay? So he's going to want to do that within a function and then call that function. Okay? That's the first thing to notice. But second of all, you just created a property. What was this property called again? Edit text. But what did it wrap? What was it a wrapper for? What did it hide? txt edit.text, exactly this thing that we want to change. So instead of accessing this directly, what are we going to access instead? edit text, right? We're going to access the edit text property. That's going to do exactly the same thing as this, but we're just doing it a different way. We're doing it like learning another way of doing things, making a property, making a function, doing all that in the function, blah, 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 right? So we're learning how to do that. So good, okay, let's learn how to do it. Now, one more thing is he doesn't use this actually to set it to empty. He gives us another way of doing it. What's the other way? So he doesn't use the two empty quote mark, a quote with nothing in between. He does what? He uses this here instead. String.empty. Okay? So that's an alternative way to empty the text. Okay, so let's see exactly what does he do. We said that he's not going to work directly with txt_edit.text. Right? He's not going to work directly with this. Instead, he's going to use this property that he just created. And he's going to also do this inside a function and then call that function. So what's the name of the function that he's going to create? Clear edit box. And then he's going to take the property that we just made, edit text, and set it to equal to empty. Now he's going to do a little bit more, though, with this subroutine. What else is he going to do? We can read the description in the comment in the green. So what does it say? Reset the font color. So he's going to reset the font color to black in case it was already set to some other color. And then he's going to do one more thing. He's going to set the status bar text to text bar cleared. And how's he going to do that? Is he going to access the status bar text directly? No. We created another property called status text, and he's going to access that instead. Yeah?
Professor, but like if the string and the writing is already empty, why does it have to be changed to black gate?
Good question. I don't know. But, you mean, why does it have to be changed to black?
Again,
Maybe because if you start typing, it'll be in red, I think, probably. Okay, or blue. Okay, so he changes it back to black. Okay, I think that's true. Because we're changing the text box property, right? If we had left it at red, it would come back in red, I guess. Okay, so in this subroutine, he's using these properties that we created, which I said are wrappers for this other stuff, which is like a style that's good to learn. So that's what we're learning. And in this subroutine, he's doing three things actually. Okay, so type this subroutine called clear edit box. Now one more thing before you type it. Just by creating this subroutine, is that using it? Is that the same thing as using it? Creating it and using it, are they the same thing? No. So we haven't even used this even after you type it, you won't have used it. So you have to use it where? Again, where are we going to use it? In the button click handler. Okay? Okay, so go ahead and do that. So you're talking about here, right? The by val?
No, the fourth one, the step 4, at 2.
This one?
This is kind of like cut into half.
Oh, by val. This is, hold on. This is, we haven't gotten here yet. So don't do that yet. Okay, so you're supposed to do the subroutine, but we didn't call this subroutine yet. So again, oh no, sorry, that's a different question. That's right, we didn't call it yet. But what's going on over here, by the way? When did we say we want this ready to appear? Let me go back and show you the function, show you when it's running. So here it is. When does it say ready? It says ready when we start. It says that. When I go to here, the status changes to this. But as soon as I type something new, it goes back to ready. And then if I do blue, it says blue. But as soon as I type something new, it goes back to ready. Okay, so when do we want it to happen? When do we want ready to show? do it again. It says ready. I change it to uppercase, doesn't say ready anymore. I click in there, it doesn't say ready anymore. I type something, it says ready. So when do we want ready to appear? When? Yeah, as soon as we type something in the keyboard, right? So what is that called? So you want, let's see, can I get this to come up? No. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. Okay. So if you go to the code, okay. If you go to the code, you can go to the text box. So you select the text box here, text edit, from here. And then what do I see over here? What's this box show me? Many different event handlers associated with the text edit box. So let's look at them. Which ones do you see? Lots of them. And which one do we want to use here? This one. Okay, so we want to use this text changed event handler. And what do we want to put in it? This. Okay, we just want to change the status text to ready. So when is that going to occur? Whenever the text changes. Okay? Everyone get that? So once again, you go to the code window, you go to here, you choose text edit. So we want to get the subroutines associated with this. And one of them is the text changed one. That's the one we want. Of course, there are many others here, and you could do programs to do lots of different stuff. But right now, we just want to do text changed. So when the text changes, we want to set the status text to ready. Okay? Any questions? All right, let's go on. Okay, now you have to do this. So what is all this going to do? Look at just the first one. What is it doing? Or what's the name of the first subroutine here? Red text. And what is it? What do you think it's going to do? TXT edit means the text box. The 4-color property, we're going to change it to what? Red. The next one, we're going to change the 4-color property to blue. The next one, we're going to change the edit text property to upper. And the next one, we're going to do to lower. Okay, so you have to do these. So we're creating these functions, but again, we're not using them yet. We haven't called them yet. Of course, you know where we're going to call them. We're going to call them in the button handlers. So type this stuff up. Okay, did everybody get this done? Okay, now, first of all, besides changing the color, what else does this red text subroutine do? Changes the status text, right? And this one changes the status text, and this one does, and this one does. Okay, now we just wrote these definitions for these subroutines. Have we used them yet? Did we use them yet? No, we just created them, right? You didn't use them, right? So, you decide where to use them. You decide where, how to use them. How are we going to use them? Where are we going to use them? Okay, go ahead and do it yourself. Figure out, when do we want to use each of these? And then go ahead and call them or use them in the appropriate places. When do you want to use 1, 2, 3, 4, and we had one other one called clear. So figure out where we want to use them and then use them.
Red text icon button is click.
Yeah, right. So where should I use the red text subroutine? When the user does what? Clicks the red text button, right? So that's where you want to put it. So in other words, you want to do this, right? You want to call these from within the buttons, the different buttons, or in other words, in the button click handlers. Now test your program after you do it. Compile it and test it and see if it works. Everyone get it to work? Does it work? Okay, good. Okay, by the way, I just want to repeat here that I think these slides, I think I've said this several times, but I think these slides are really good, and I don't think you'll find a better presentation of this material I haven't seen as good anywhere on the internet or in any books. I looked at about 5 or 6 books, and I've also looked in the internet, and I don't think I've seen anything as good as this. So this is Professor Rose's slides, and they're very, very good. The best I've seen. Okay, now with that. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, the next thing is we are going to learn to use multiple forms within the same project. So we haven't done that before. Okay? And the new form we're going to add is this one here. So this is going to be a new form. And of course, when is this going to be, when are we going to see this form? Of course, when we do this, when I click this button, it's going to bring up a new form. Now, this is called I think it's called a dialog box. And you've seen dialog boxes many places. For example, if I open up Microsoft Word, here, when I open up Microsoft Word, and I click something like up here, can't see it now. I click something like here, and I click open. This is called a dialog box. This is called the open file dialog box. So you could program, you could make a form that looks like this. So it would have a button here, it would have a text box here, and another text box here, it would have something here, and you could do all of this yourself, but Visual Studio gives you certain pre-made dialog boxes. This is one of them, the open file dialog box. So you can use this in your program. So if you want to open a file somehow, for some reason, you could use this pre-programmed open file dialog box to do that. Another example of a dialog box is like print one. Okay, so this is a dialog box, and you could, I don't think we get one of these, I'm not sure. And there's like a save as, that's another one. Okay, you could write this yourself, but I think they also give you a save as in Visual Studio. Okay? So this we could make our own. So we just create a form with these things on it. This doesn't seem that hard. But there's also one that's already there for us. So we're going to take advantage of the fact that it's already there for us, and we don't have to make our own. Okay? So let's look at how to do that. So we're going to be making a new form, and this is the first time we've really done that within the same project. And now don't click here. This is a little bit wrong. This somehow got moved, this red circle. Let's add a new Windows form to our project. In the Solution Explorer, in here, left click on the Text Editor project. So this one here. And it's not left click, it's right click. So right click on this, here. Right click here, and you'll get this menu here, and click Add, and select Windows Form. Okay? And then you will get this dialog box here, and you'll see something called About Box here. And that's something that's already done for us, so we don't have to do it all by ourselves. And then select Add Windows Form to call up the new Add dialog box. Okay. Look at, and then add this thing and click Add here. Okay, everyone do that? Look at the new About box, a new tab for an about.vb. Oh, sorry, we have to change the name. Set its name to About. Set its name to About. So you have to select it, or I'm sure you have to have it in your window, and change its name to About. Okay? Now they say a new tab for an about.vb design editor will appear. So this thing up here will appear. That's new. As noted above, as noted in here, see where it says at runtime the labels text will be replaced with the application's assembly information, all that. As noted above, the text editor's application's assembly information will be displayed at runtime. So that's what this is saying. This is the information about the software's manufacturer. We can set this using the application pane. Okay, so let's look at that. So step 3, add controls and set some properties for this. So as shown below, open the assembly information dialog for your text editor project. So this is for the whole project, not particularly for the About box, by double-clicking the My Project icon here. So you double-click over here, to call up the properties, the project properties windows. That's this window here. Okay, so call this up, and then click the assembly information, this button here, in the application tab, and that will bring this up here. And enter this information into this assembly information window, or form.
Does it have to be exactly the same?
Does it have to be what?
Exactly the same.
No. This is what you're going to have display in your About box. So it doesn't have to be exactly the same as this if you don't want it to display exactly this.
The copyright year and everything.
You can have it as you like. Okay, so let's go to the next screen. Add some code. So we have this About box now. How are we going to see it? When do we want to see it? When do I want to see this about text editor? Here, right? When we click this question mark, right? So how is he going to do it again? Is he just going to say, show it somehow, or is he going to do something else? What's his style, Professor Rose's style? Every time to enclose it in a function and then call the function. Okay, so he's going to enclose it in a function. So what's the name of the function he's going to enclose it in? Show about box. Now, where are we going to put this function? We don't want to put it in the new form code. We want to put it in our original text editor class. Okay, so make sure you put it in the original text editor class and type this function here. And then let's talk about this function after you've typed it. Let me say one thing. In case there's some error, like you try and run the program and you get some error, you can always just delete this box in your solution editor here. Where is it here? About.bb. You can just right-click on that and do delete and then redo it again. Okay, you can always get rid of it and redo it again. For example, the first time I tried it, I had an error, and I couldn't figure out why the error was coming. So I just deleted it and started again, and it worked. I had changed some setting by mistake. I didn't mean to do it, but I didn't know what setting I changed. Okay, let's talk about this subroutine. So here it uses this word. Have we seen this word before? Have we seen that word ever in any work that we've done? No? I think yes. When did we see it? When? When did we see this new? Anybody remember? Did we see it for arrays? No. Not arrays, but something very similar to arrays. When was it? An array list. When we created an array list, we did this. We used new. We said new array list. So we had something like dim, and then the name of the array list that we just give it any name we want, as new array list. So we saw this before. This is essential object-oriented code. So whenever you have an object and you want to create an example of it, you give the name of the example and then as new and the type of object you want to create. That's essential object-oriented programming. So what we're doing now, but do we have a class called about? Like we had a class called ArrayList. Actually, we didn't make it, but it was there in Visual Basic. So we could say new ArrayList. But do we have a class called about? Yeah, if you go back and you look at the name of, where is it? Here, in your about.bb tab, here, and you look at the text for that, you're going to see that the name of this class is about. Now, the idea of object-oriented programming, I'll say it, I think we said it before, but I'll say it again, because it's, I have to hear it a few times. The idea is that you write classes, and a class is like a blueprint for an object, but you don't actually have the object until you create what we call an instance of that object. So the way that you create an instance of an object is by doing this. Now, I had the plan or the blueprint for about, but I didn't have any instances of it actually. But now I create an instance. Now we could create as many instances as we want. Once we have the blueprint, you could create one called object about, and another one called object about to, and another one called, so you can create lots of them, but we don't need lots of them. We just need one about window, so we don't need lots of them. So we're creating one right here, and so our about window is called obj about. Now, if we want to access different aspects of it, we use the dot notation. For example, obj about, we use the show dialog. Which is a method associated with about objects. Okay, remember that different objects, different controls, for example, those are objects also. Different objects have different properties and different methods associated with them. And we didn't write this about class, did we? I said we could, but we didn't. We used an already existing one. So, it has apparently a show dialog method, because otherwise we couldn't write show dialog here. So they must have programmed a show dialog method for this about class. So I don't know where the about class is, the definition of it, but somehow, somewhere in there, actually maybe it's in there, I'm not sure. Maybe we could actually see it. But somehow in there, there's a show dialog method, and we're calling it here. And we're calling it, we have to say me means it's the current box. Okay, so now we have this show about box, and where do we call it? Where do we call it? In this button click event handler. And so we do show about box. Okay? Okay, let's see, how much time do we have now? We have -4 minutes. Okay, so I will stop, but I didn't read this screen here, so you have to read it yourself. Okay, but basically he says that this form that we used is a special type of form. It's this kind of form. Let me just show you once really quickly. It's this kind of form. When I open this window, this open window here, I have to respond to this before I can't, I'm trying to click here, I can't click on this, right? I can't go, I have to do something here first, either click cancel or open before I can go back to my application, right? That's typical, right? That's called, in Visual Basic, a modal form. I don't know why it's called a modal form, but that's called a modal form. So it's a form where you have to respond to it before you can go back. And our about box is that kind of form. Okay, so that's all. Okay, so remember to bring this project with you. Of course, you have to hand it in for homework, but also bring it with you. Have it on your desktop so that you can open it next week, because we're going to be continuing to work on it. Okay, that's all.